Hi, welcome back to 2 Weeks to Your Best Children's Book. Today we're looking at concept, how to come up with a dynamic, memorable, attention-grabbing concept for your book. The concept of your book is so important because if you have a lackluster concept, it doesn't matter how well you execute it, how well you write it. Children are going to be bored, publishers aren't going to be interested. If you have a great idea for your book, a great concept, that is the bedrock that the entire book is built upon. So in this video, we're going to do three things. First, I'm going to tell you some storylines that I see too often as an editor. They're probably a little bit cliche, they're just overused. Second, I'm going to run through some really popular children's books and look at what is their concept. How can we learn from them? And lastly, I'm going to give you an activity so you can either find your concept or improve your concept. Let's start with the three storylines I see most frequently as an editor. These are cliche storylines, overused storylines. I just see them so often it's going to be hard to write a unique book about them. First of all, storylines about bullying. I get a lot of anti-bullying books. It's going to be really hard to write a truly original storyline about not bullying. Everyone has agreed that bullying is bad and that kids need to learn not to bully, and so there's just a lot of children's books out there that are about that topic. Now, if you tried to write a pro-bullying book, that would at least be original, but, I don't think we should be teaching kids that. The second storyline I see a lot of is pet stories. Now, I'm not talking about when pets are the actual narrator or the actor, the main character. I'm talking about when someone, a child or an adult, has a pet, and the story is about losing that pet or something like that. I see a lot of pet storylines, and that doesn't mean you can't do it. I love pets, pets are wonderful, people like reading about pets, but just to say your story has to be more original if you're going to try to pull it off. And then the third story I see a lot of is when parents are the heroes. These are storylines where the parents are one of the main characters and they're either solving the problem of the book or giving advice to the child. I see these really often because it's parents who are writing the book and they want to make themselves the hero of the story. But it's really not a good idea. The story ultimately should be about the child and how they solve their own problems. As much as possible, try to keep parents out. Now you're going to say, John, you don't know what you're talking about. There are tons of published exceptions to what you're saying. And I would agree with you. Yes, there are totally exceptions. But my goal for you is to get the most readers possible for your book, and that means helping you come up with the most original content. If you picked one of these topics, have no fear. In the activity section, I'm going to give you some ideas on how to tweak the concept so it seems more original. Now let's look at some books with fantastic concepts and see what we can learn from them. Meet the Dullards is about a family trying to be as boring as possible and how the kids rebel and do something very exciting. It's a great idea for a book because I never thought about a family being so exceptionally boring. You might have heard of this one, Dragons Love Tacos. The catch, though, is that dragons do not like salsa, spicy salsa. So you read the entire book to find out what disastrous thing happens when they actually eat salsa. This is a classic, The Day the Crayons Quit. So this is a story where you animate inanimate objects. We have these crayons, we make them come alive. And what happens if the crayons go on strike? How do children color? I especially like that this one is told in letters, as the crayons write letters to the boy who owns them. The Fourth King is about what if there was a fourth wise man who went to visit the baby Jesus. It's a great idea because it's a familiar story that we all know, but it's intriguing enough that, here's an untold part of the story. Here we have a very unique concept that's very interactive. It's called Press Here. It asks the children to press different places on the book, and then something happens the next page as a result of the child pressing there. For instance, on a page like this, the child would be asked to tilt the book to the left, and then voila, all the dots end up on the left side of the page. It's a great idea because it gets the children interacting with the book. Dad runs away with the circus. The premise is right there in the title. It's a wonderful idea. You're wondering, how does the family survive without Dad? How do the children feel about Dad leaving and going to the circus? A child is interested in this not only because it's about the circus, but there's also this emotional component. What if my parent left and ran away to the circus? So those were some fantastic examples of books. Now we're on to an activity for you. I want you to pick 10 books from your library, your favorite books, books that you really love, and write down a sentence of what they're about. Just one sentence. And then look at all of them together. What do they have in common? Are a lot of them set internationally? Do a lot of them feature animals as the main characters? Do a lot of them have surprise endings? Now I want you to write a single sentence pitch for your idea. If you don't have an idea already, then use the inspiration of these 10 books to try to generate some sort of idea. What do you want to write about? If you do have an idea for your book already, then use these 10 books as inspiration. How do these 10 books teach you how to create a novel concept for your children's book? Try to come up with a twist for your story. For instance, say you thought your story was about a brother who constantly teases his sister. That's not enough. Let's push it a little bit farther. What if at certain points the brother finds himself transformed into a monster, and it's only at those times where he ends up teasing his sister? So when his mother confronts him, he says, "Oh, Mom, it wasn't me, it was the monster." I took the basic concept of sibling rivalry and sibling teasing and just added one extra element to it. Try to do that for your own story. Push it a little bit farther, use a little bit more imagination, humor, give it a little bit more spice. Now, once you come up with a single sentence description of your main book concept, it's time to test it. Find a friend, a spouse, a child, and tell them your single sentence. Don't explain it beyond that. Just say, "Here's the idea for my book," and give them that single sentence. How do they react? And don't only pay attention to what they say, pay attention to their body language too. Ask them what they think about it. See what sort of feedback you can get from them on whether it sounds like a fun story. If you get good feedback, you know you've hit it. If you get so-so feedback, keep on tinkering with it. Ultimately, the best way to come up with a good concept for your children's book is to read a lot. The more children's books you read, the more knowledge you have of the entire spread of children's books, and the better you'll be able to come up with one little book that's a little bit different than all the others out there. In the next lesson, we are talking about the golden rule of page 3. It's one of the most important lessons that I give to children's book writers, and I will see you then.